Have you ever felt just not good enough for God? Maybe it's something like specifically that you did that you're ashamed of, and you think about that and you think, actually, that just makes me think I'm not good enough for God. Or maybe you just have that kind of ongoing, persistent feeling that you just don't quite measure up. Or maybe you're someone who started to realize that there's more to life and you've started to explore faith. Maybe you've hung around some Christians or went to church, and as you measure yourself against them, you're just like, I can't go to church enough, or I don't know the Bible enough, or pray enough, and you just feel like you're not good enough for God. Well, if any of that connects with you, then I'm so excited because I've got a cracking verse for you that honestly, that this verse could just change everything for you. Hey, my name's Derek and welcome to my channel. For the last 3 decades, I've been helping people explore faith, and in these videos I want to give you some tools and insights that's going to help you live a deeper and more meaningful life. So many people that I interact with and talk to, you can just see that they just don't feel like they kind of measure up, that they don't quite feel that they're good enough for God. And the problem is when they think about the things they've done wrong, or their flaws, or their sense that they don't quite measure up, they feel a bit of sense of shame or guilt or a bit of disgust or embarrassment about those things. But the main problem is when they think about, well, what does God think when he sees it? When God reacts to me, what sort of things come into his mind? That if we were to start seeking him and praying, or we came to church, or we offered to do something for him, and God looks at us, like, what sort of reaction do we get? How does he feel? What does we think? And for many of us, we have this sense, this kind of instinct, which I think is all wrong, but this sense that when God reacts to us, when God sees us, when we kind of come to him, that he's a bit like he reacts like a little girl does when she sees a slug for the first time and she tries to touch it. You know what I mean? Can you imagine that? It's just like, I want to do it, but I'm not, it's all a bit yucky and a bit grimy. That God, yeah, he wants to kind of welcome us, but he's got like the bit of disgust, a bit of embarrassment, a bit of a, oh, do I have to? But listen to what this verse says in Psalm 18, verse 19. Listen to what this says. He rescues me because he delights in me. He rescues me because he delights in me. And a lot of people struggle to believe that verse, that when we hear something like that, actually in our mind, we rewrite it into something that's more acceptable. It's like, he rescues me because that's his job description. He rescues me because, like, he has to. He's God. That's what he's supposed to do. You know, like you're a manager at work and you've got to have a staff meeting, and you maybe don't like your staff because they always moan or they're stressful. You do it because you have to. It's in your job. You've got to do it. And for some of us, we think, well, if we come to God, yeah, he's going to like accept us, or maybe he's going to listen to us if we pray, because like that's what he has to. But the verse says he rescues us because he delights in us, not he rescues you because he has to. But some of us rewrite it in another way. We say, well, he rescues us. He rescues me, and when I clean myself up and I've sorted myself out and I've been to church and I've sorted out my moral life and I give money away and maybe I help people and tell people about it, when I get to that point, he will delight in me. Yeah, he rescues me now, but he doesn't delight in me. But one day, if I prove myself and get good enough, that he will delight in me. But the verse doesn't say that. He said he rescues me because he delights in me. Or what some of us reread that verse and we turn it into this. He said he rescues me, but he delights in that person. And he delights in that person. And we compare ourselves to others. And the idea that God would look at me and God would look at you and he would delight in us, that's a real difficulty. I wonder which one of those you would tend to rewrite that verse to be. You know, God rescues me because that's his job. God rescues me, but he doesn't delight in me yet. Once I've sorted myself out and I'm a better person, then he might delight in me. Or God rescues me, but you know, he delights in other people. But if we would, I mean, what would happen if that verse seeped into our soul, and that when we've messed up, or when we think about coming into God's presence or praying or seeking him, we thought that he wants to rescue us because he delights in us? If that was our mindset and our belief, like, how would that change how we feel about ourselves? How would that kind of release us into a spiritual growth journey with God? I mean, a few months ago, my daughter's 20, Emma, and I was away on holiday in Croatia, and she rang me up And I answered the phone and I was like, what's going on here? And she's crying on the end of the phone. And I remember I was lying on some grass and the sky was really beautiful. I was having a fantastic time, but I heard a voice and she's crying down the phone. And immediately I sit up and I stand up and I'm like, what is it? And she's like, Dad, can I speak to you? Something terrible's happened. I said, yeah, sure. What is it? And it was like, in those seconds, it felt like forever till she started talking. You know what it's like as a dad, if your daughter rings you and said, can I talk to you? Something bad has happened. And she's in a job involved with like sales, and some guy had spoken to her and he'd been really horrible and he'd said some nasty things to her, and that really upset her and hurt her. And she said, you know, I'm just on a short break. I can't talk to my colleagues about it. Can I just tell you? And so she talked to me for a few minutes and I reassured her and we had a conversation, and then she's like, I've got to go back to work now, but that's helped loads, Dad. Thanks very much. And she gets off the phone and my wife's seen what's going on and she's standing up and I've got tears pouring down my face, you know. And my wife, she turns to me and Karen and she's like, is everything all right? And yeah, being a man who's very in touch with my feelings, I turn and I'm like, yep, absolutely fine, nothing wrong here. But you could see just tears everywhere. And I had tears down my face for two reasons. The first reason is my daughter was in trouble. Yeah, when you love someone, what happens to them kind of happens to you in some way, doesn't it? It affects you. But there's a second reason why I had tears, and they were tears of joy. You know, not joy in the sense of how happy bad things had happened to my daughter, but joy that she'd rang me. You know, I can remember when she was younger and I'm thinking about what's our father, and I'm thinking about when she's an adult, what's our relationship? And it's like, I would love for us to have a good relationship where she knew she could ring me if she ever had trouble. And she'd chosen to ring me. And have you any idea what that does to your heart as a dad when your daughter rings you? It like stirs something deep within you that you delight. It's not like she rings me, it's like, oh, nasty slug. It's like, okay, I'll kind of help you, but I don't really want to. It's a bit gross, you know, because you messed up or you're in trouble. It's like, no, not at all. I rescues you. I'd love to rescue her because I delight in her in terms of who she is, whether she's doing well in life or whether she's not, just because of who she is and my daughter. That's how I feel. And that's what this verse is saying, that he rejoices when he rescues you. He rejoices when you come to him, that it stirs something in your heart, delights, not because he has to, not because you've cleaned yourself up, but he created you and he loves you and he values you. And if you're in that position right now, maybe you've done something terrible, or you just don't feel quite good enough, or you're just wondering, you know, I'm not as good as other people. Could I come to him? Could I explore prayer? Could I come to church? Could I kind of take on a role for him? Could he be part of my life? And he's just like on tenderhooks saying, just ring me, and he will just be tears of joy if you were to come to him, because he would delight in you. Hope that insight is helpful, and maybe you want to look up that verse and maybe just carry it with you over the next couple of days. He rejoices, he rescues me because he delights in me. Hope that was helpful, and see you again soon on the channel. Thanks.